is so spooky. It's not actually like scary. It's just like sinister. This is a story about these three young women, sisters, I think, and they live on this island with their father and their mother, and they've been taught their whole life that men are like toxic, but not like, oh my god, so toxic, like actually, like will give you disease, toxic, and they've never met any men other than their father, and then suddenly their father disappears. He goes away. They live on this island, I believe, and I'm trying to remember, it was a while ago that I read this, but they live on this island very isolated, and women come to this, like, in my mind it was like this castle, but I don't actually know, like this house that they have on this island that's separate from like society, and the women have been like diseased by men, and at the beginning of the book it seems very literal, and it's hard to say by the end of the book if that is indeed the world that they live in. Like at the beginning of the book it seems like, oh, this is a story set in a place where men actually are toxic and carry disease and like infect women with their toxicity. But then by the end of the book, I think the line becomes really vague of like, oh, were we just seeing it so much from the main character's perspective? And I think this is what's excellent about this book. Were we seeing it so much from the main characters, the main girl's perspective, where they've been raised in this house to believe that men are physically toxic, and so then we believe it as the reader as the way the world is, whereas in reality maybe it's set, or like, I don't know, not in reality, but maybe it is set in by the end of the book. It's hard to say whether it's set in just our world right now, but these girls are so far removed and we hear the story from their perspective. So their father goes missing, and it's just the girls and their mother, and the girls are like subjected to all this really intense like psychological experimenting, but it's like very abusive. And I realize in saying this, like telling this about, it makes the book sound like scarier than it is. Like the book, the main point of action is that the father leaves, and then these three men wash up on shore, and they're like stranded. Their boat has like broken down or something, and it's these three girls who have all been taught that like men are toxic and they should do everything they can to stay away from them, and their mother, who like, it's unclear whether she knows the reality of the world, and their father is still missing. And it's like so gripping. It's terrifying, but not in a like jump scare way, but just in a like, what is real, what is not. Yeah, it's a really good book. Okay, the next book is a book I read recently. This book is Alone with You in the Ether. I think that I talked about it after I finished it, by Olive A. Blake. This book is so good. It really had like a chokehold on me, kind of the same way Normal People did when I read it, like back in like 2017, 2018. In that I just felt, and I felt this way when I read Normal People, and I felt this way when I read this book, like it reflected so accurately the place that I was in, the place that I'm in, and the things that I want, and the experiences that I've had, so much so that I was like, me from the outside to other people's like judgments of them are harsh. I don't know. I feel like I'm not doing a great job describing this book, but it's very, very good. It's very like, I feel this really in my bones. Like if you have any like air sign placements, like Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, especially like Gemini, I feel like this is like a Gemini kind of book. It's like my Venus is in Gemini, which means that like the way that I love, the things that I love, aesthetics, all those things are influenced by like curiosity about wanting to find out about people, about talking and talking and talking. And I just really, really felt, oh no, my heater came on. It's been very cold. I apologize. I just really felt like this resonated so much with me because it felt like the exact way that I want to fall in love, by like talking and figuring someone out in all of their idiosyncrasies. So I really highly recommend this as well. The next book I also read early in the year, but it's really stuck with me. This is The Mercies by Kieran Millwood Hargrave. This takes place in the 1600s in Norway, in this very remote island village. The story begins with almost every man in the village drowning in a fishing accident. And the women of the town are, like a really remote, isolated town, are mourning and also coming to the realization that they will need to take on the roles of the men in their village to survive. And the kind of complexity of that reality with religion, with expectations of women, with like the norms of what's expected of them, of also then like further complicated by grief, by processing their grief, by losing so many loved ones, losing like half of their village, feeling, there's so many intertwining threads in this story. There's also the like tension between the church and like indigenous religion, between like Sami people, I believe, and like the Christians, and it's told from the perspective of a young woman. I don't really know what more there is to say without like giving too much more away. And then, so they're like moving through this grief as a community of this loss and also trying to figure out how to survive. And that causes much tension amongst the women of the village to begin with. And then this man is sent to the village because news has spread of this tragedy and how these women are like alone, and so like they're like, we need to save these women. And in the meantime, obviously it's the 1600s, news doesn't travel that fast. In the meantime, as the news is traveling, the women are starting to learn how to fend for themselves, how to hunt and fish, and break out of their gender roles else, and become more capable on their own. And so a man arrives. I can't remember exactly how it plays out, but basically this man is sent. His name is Absalom Cornet, which is just like such a sinister name. I don't know why. And he is from Scotland, and basically the thought is that the women are only able to keep themselves alive because of witchcraft. And so he's like, this man is like a witch hunter, and which sounds really like corny as I'm saying it right now, but like he is like known for like bringing down witches or whatever. And so he comes to the town and then starts like surveilling all of these women as they're like simply trying to like survive in their lives. And like it is then like, there's witches, we're gonna punish them, and it's like, and then it becomes this like witch trial. I think this book was, first of all, the story was just like very propulsive. It really like kept me super interested, and the characters are so interesting. There's like family strife. Part of the main character's family is Sami, and part of her family is Christian, and like trying to, especially as suspicions rise towards Sami because of like witchcraft and stuff, like the relationships within the family. And but this book, I think also, this is an embarrassing realization, I think I've said it before, but like, especially when I was younger, and we would learn about like Salem witch trials, and like witch trials around the world, I thought that what they were actually persecuting women for was like doing witchcraft. And like this book was like such a strong reminder that it was like never about witchcraft. It's never about witchcraft. It's about like women having agency and power that threatens society, that threatens patriarchy. And so very embarrassing to have that realization that like witch trials weren't about witchcraft as an adult, but like it is what it is. Yeah. This book is really fantastic. It's a great read. It's got like some queer stuff too. Chef's kiss. Okay, pivoting a little bit. Actually, the next two books are like a bigger pivot. These are fun books, but I wanted to include them in my favorite books of this year because I think this year, I mean, all books are fun books, but I think like this year I've really pivoted from being really judgmental of like romance and fantasy and whatnot into fully accepting reading them with open arms and enjoying it a lot. I don't know, you know, like I was pretentious about it before, and that's dumb because reading romance and fantasy and all the kind of like trashier genres, whatever, quote unquote, is like fun. I don't like, it's good. It's a good time. So pivot. I did not expect to enjoy this book. I don't know why. I can't remember who recommended it. I think that I heard Haley Jean, Absolute Girl, talking about it. I think. And like, I just ordered it and I was like, days ago, Elliot will come to understand the truth behind Macy's decade-long silence and will have to overcome the past and himself to revive her faith in the possibility of an all-consuming love. Right. Oh, this book was so good. It's like, yeah, the alternating timelines is told really well, like really effectively. And yeah, they're like childhood friends. Their friendship is so cute, and yeah, it just like, I felt like the story also really moved, like it really had quite a clip. I remember, I think, like honestly, to be real, most books I finish in the middle of the night. I don't know why. Like I finished a book last night in the middle of the night. I think, I don't even know what it is, but I remember finishing this in the middle of the night, like sobbing. So it made me sob. It's a good book. I'll say it. Okay, and here's my honorable mention. This is gonna come before. There's 2 more books left, but I'm gonna tell you my honorable mention because it's a novel, and the last book is kind of not a novel, it's like nonfiction-ish. So this is my honorable mention of the year. It's A Court of Mist and Fury. Now, this does not fall into my actual favorite books because, like, to read this book, you have to read ACOTAR, and ACOTAR is not good. Like, it's fine, it's whatever, but like, it's kind of a slog. This book is lovely, it's beautiful, it's so sexy fun, it's like, oh, love. But it's long as fuck, and yeah, you have to read ACOTAR to get to it, so I don't know, like, that being said, like, I would read ACOTAR again to read this again, you know, so 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But this is the second book in the Court of Mist and Fury series. It starts with Feyre and Tamlin about to get married. Feyre's feeling constrained, she's feeling confined, she's feeling confused because like she's about to marry the love of her life, but yet she feels tied down and like whatever. And she has this like deal that she made with what's his name? Oh my god, I can't remember his name. Rhysand, where she has to go live with him for like a week, a month, or something. And he comes to collect on that deal, like the day she's getting married. Like maybe as she's walking down the aisle, TBH. And so he like takes her away, like from her wedding, I think, right? Isn't that what happens? And she's like so mad at him and she hates him, but he also offers her like a freedom that just Tamlin does not. And so she like is feeling even more conflicted because she had been having like conflicting feelings before, but then like Rhysand is like letting her be free and like be a human with autonomy while Tamlin is like keeping her under tighter and tighter like grips. And so then Rhysand ultimately like steals her away after she and Tamlin have like a really rough moment. And yeah, I don't want to say too much more because like it's so good. It's so good. But yeah, this is like peak romantasy for me. I tried to start the next book and I just like really stalled out on it. It's so long and like the beginning part starts during the war and like I don't know, I was just kind of like, ugh, I don't want to read this right now. And so I haven't gone back into the series and I don't know if I will, honestly. Like this kind of was like top notch for me. But anyway, that's my honorable mention. Okay, and the last book, I actually haven't finished this book, so, and I talked about it a while ago, but I wanted to bring it up again because, I'm giving it to my dad for his birthday, which then, like, reminded me of how much I enjoyed this book, and I wanted to tell you about it. So this is The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. The Creative Act, A Way of Being, and this book feels like just like, she looks pretty sitting there. And I just think, like, if you are a creative person in any sense of the word, sorry, there's schmutz on the back that I'm trying to scratch off. Yeah, this book has been really resonant for me. It really talks about, like, the connection between spirituality and creativity. But I think the thing that the author does elegantly, in my opinion, is allows space for spirituality to look like whatever it looks like for you. And then talks about how that kind of like spirituality, that kind of like universal force, or like God, or, you know, energy, or whatever you think is kind of the unifying force in the world, if you believe that there is one, is so essential to creation, because when you're creating, you're tapping into that like source, you're tapping into the divine in some way. And like, at first I was skeptical because, like, while I do have like a practice of spirituality, I also like grew up with like very staunch atheists as parents. Like, we're Jewish, like we do Jewish stuff, we also celebrate Christmas, I don't know, but like all of it outside of the realm of God, you know, like outside of the realm of like any kind of spiritual thing that we cannot see happening in the world. And so I really resisted any ideology around around God, or like around like any kind of spiritual, universal, whatever. And I think I've talked about that before, but like, I think that connecting with my spirituality has just helped me become more aligned, and have a little bit more trust. I think it's helped me heal a lot. Yeah. Anyway, I'm really curious to give this to my dad, because he's like such an atheist. And yeah, we used to have some like very rough conversations when I was like a teenager. It's funny because I like talk about my spirituality as if it's like a thing that has come about in my adulthood, which like it mostly has been. But like as a teenager, I remember my dad would be like, anyone who believes in like God is crazy. And I would be like, Dad, that's literally like, you can't say that. That's just ridiculous. Like, because so many people believe in God that you think that they're all nuts. Like, no. And like, you might not believe in it, but negating someone else's belief in it is like not literally doing you any good. Because like God, you know, whomever, allows people to persevere through so much hardship, whether you believe, like, right, whether you believe in the existence of said God or not. Like, a spiritual community brings so much to people's lives, and like the idea that, whatever, anyway, I could go off, like, but as like a 14-year-old, we get into like fights, I would like not let him say that. So it's like funny to me now when I'm like, oh, I wasn't really spiritual till my adulthood. And I'm like, well, anyway, so I'm curious if he'll like react, how he'll react to this book. But he's a Capricorn, but he's also, like, we were having this conversation recently, he's getting close to retiring. He's turning 60 this year. Yay, happy birthday, Dad. He was talking about wanting to, like, he was just talking about how he wanted to learn how to draw, and he also wanted to learn how to, like, play an instrument. And so, yeah, I got him this book because I feel like it's really important. I don't know, I was just, like, every part of this book, I was, like, underlining, highlighting, like, I just